Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us for this announcement of a historic partnership that is forming a new economic development area here in Spokane County. The first of its kind partnership between the City of Spokane, Spokane County, and the Spokane International Airport will bring new investment in aerospace and manufacturing and new jobs to the West Plains. With us this morning is Council President Ben Stuckert, County Commissioner Al French, as the chair of the commission this year, and Spokane Airport Chair Colin Sprague, and also many of the other members of city and state government, and also the county commission, or excuse me, the Spokane Airport Board. Today, the Spokane City Council will consider a memorandum of understanding between the city, county, and the Spokane Airport that outlines a 20-year agreement establishing a public development authority that will attract new manufacturing and aerospace development that will grow jobs in this area. The Spokane County Commission will consider the same memorandum of understanding at its meeting tomorrow, and the Spokane Airport Board has already passed a resolution authorizing the airport to enter into this partnership and will formally be known as the West Plains Airport Area Public Development Authority. The agreement outlines revenue and debt sharing, annexation governance, and initial funding and other considerations within the PDA boundaries. This unique partnership is another way for us to grow economic investment and jobs in the Spokane area that benefit residents of the city and county by leveraging one of the region's greatest assets, the Spokane International Airport. For the city, this furthers the joint strategic plan of the mayor's office and the city council and adds another important resource as we grow economic vitality in the area. The city also has PDAs in Hilliard and the University District, but what makes this partnership truly unique is the emphasis on the collective economic benefit to our region rather than competing across geographic boundaries. The West Plains PDA marks the first time all three partners have collaborated to focus resources on growing target industries in a specific area. At this point, I'd like to invite Commissioner French, the current chair of the Board of County Commissioners, to discuss the county's participation in the partnership. He'll be followed by City Council President Ben Stuckert and the Spokane Airport Board Chair Colin Sprague.
Thank you. I would like to start out by first recognizing my fellow seatmates and Commissioner Shelley O'Quinn and County Commissioner Josh Kearns. We work in tandem. We work to try and make sure that all three of us are finding a path to get to the same place, and I want to thank both of them for their incredible efforts and leadership as we work to create this historic relationship. I also want to recognize State Senator Mr. Mike Baumgartner and also Representative Jeff Holy. I know that the two of these gentlemen, as well as Representative Mike Volz, are all committed to economic development for the region, so I want to thank them for their efforts. And I also want to thank Mayor Condon and his staff, Council President Stuckert, and the other council members for the leadership that they've demonstrated, both in service to this community and in working to try and find a path forward in this agreement. Finally, I want to thank Larry Crowder and Colin Sprague and the other airport board members that are here today for their leadership and dedication to the airport and all of its surrounding properties. This is an event that I've been personally looking forward to for 6 years. For as long as I can remember, there's been a perception that the city and the county are competitors and don't work well together. Despite the hundreds of agreements that we have between our two organizations to find ways to reduce cost and improve services for our constituents, that perception continues. I saw it as a city council member. I see it as a county commissioner. One of the many agreements that we have between us as city and county defines the relationship and the ownership of the airport, where the city and the county both represent 50% of the ownership of this airport and all of its assets. I will admit that there have been times where competition for growth opportunities has occurred, because we're all trying to get revenues necessary to support our efforts to deliver services. And in the past, this competition has been the result of an attitude of, if you win, I lose. Today, we're looking to change that paradigm. Today, we're trying to create a relationship that says, in economic development, we can all win. You know, the City of Spokane residents are also Spokane County residents. We are here working to try and and satisfy the needs and desires of our collective constituents. So as I look at how do we change this relationship from a win-lose to a win-win, this goes back to 2011 when we first started having conversations about revenue sharing. And then when I served on the airport board with Larry Crowder, he came up with the idea of what about creating a PDA, a Public Development Authority? Merge the ideas together, and that's what we have today. Historic opportunity for the city and the county to come together, combine our resources together for the benefit of the region. And so, what does it take to make something like this happen? It takes vision, it takes leadership, it takes trust, and it takes courage. And I want to recognize and thank all of the mayor's staff and the mayor, city council members, Council President Stuckard, and my fellow commissioners for having the vision, the leadership, the plan, the courage, and the trust to act. That's what's necessary to move us forward, and all of them have demonstrated that. So I finally want to thank my fellow commissioners, Commissioner O'Quinn and Commissioner Josh, for their excellent efforts in trying to make sure that we create a path forward. Collectively, I think we've done a great job, not only representing the interest of the county, but also working with our partners in the city to try and find that path forward. So thank you to all of you for your hard work in getting us to this point.
Thank you, Commissioner French. I remember my first week in office in 2012, and my first visit was from Al, and he sat down and said, we need to revenue share between the city and the county, and we need to figure out a way so that the city's not constantly trying to annex the county. And 5 years later, we're standing here with an agreement on the West Plains where the city says we will stand down for the next 20 years on annexation, and we will revenue share in a specific geographic location. And so when you have a conversation and you're like, revenue sharing, I don't know, Al, how are we going to do that? I just think this shows how far we have come since 2012 when it was just an idea. This is an innovative partnership. I remember in 2015 when this conversation started and Larry Crowder came to the airport board and said, I really want to jumpstart economic development. And then somebody that hasn't been mentioned very specifically that was in the very first meeting on this idea was Rick Romero. And Rick and Larry, your leadership is integral to this happening. It would not have happened had we not sat down in a room. And it quickly became apparent after the city and the airport got together that there's no way this would work unless we look at this without boundaries. And we create these artificial boundaries between cities and counties. And it's our job to say what benefits the whole region as a whole. And so thank you, Commissioner French. Thank you, Commissioner O'Quinn, for all of your time on this. This is a step, as the mayor said, in the implementation of our strategic plan that the mayor and the city council have been meeting with over the last 6 months, where we take strategic areas and target our resources to them. So by revenue sharing our incremental growth, pouring it back into infrastructure, we're yet again going to prove that that equals economic development when you smartly spend the public's money. So thank you to Spokane County, the county commissioners, the airport board, the airport staff that was at every single meeting, but especially Larry, the city council, and Councilmember Waldorf is here today, and the airport board. So I'd like to welcome the airport board chair, Colin Sprague, right now. Thank you for all your leadership on the airport board.
Good morning. It's a real privilege to be here. I think that this proves out that a good vision for the community sometimes takes time to execute. So I want to, patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue. I do want to thank the city and the county and all the staff from the city and the county who are involved in making this come true today. We're announcing a PDA, the creation of a PDA that represents an important milestone in this community, with the city and the county working together to advance economic development, not just for the city, not just for the county, but both. Congratulations to everybody who's been involved in this proposition. The airport board shares your collective vision for promoting economic development. I'm proud to point out that today, Spokane International Airport provides over $725 million in economic benefit to the region. And we do this without any taxpayer-funded support from the city or the county. The PDA that will be created today will provide a dual benefit for those who own the airport. the citizens of Spokane County. It will strengthen our potential as a transportation hub and bring new businesses and new jobs to our region. We believe the PDA will make the airport an even more important economic catalyst for our region. The PDA will be able to pursue not only aeronautical, but non-aeronautical projects combined. We welcome job creation. We all do, period. That's our objective. But ideally, the new businesses that will come into the PDA will be concentrated in the aerospace, manufacturing, transportation, and logistics sectors. These, after all, are our region's core competencies. This is where we hit it out of the ballpark every single time. The airport looks forward to being a true partner with the PDA. We'll coordinate infrastructure investment with it, and we'll support the PDA in marketing, business recruitment, and its expansion, not just inside, but also outside the boundaries of our airport. And speaking of good partners, I want to acknowledge the excellent work of Senator Baumgartner, Representative Holy, and I know Representative Volz, who's not here today, in helping to secure a grant for the rail transportation spur on the property. That is going to prove out to be a good job creator for our region. Thank you. And thank you for being here. With that, I'll pass it off to the mayor.
Again, thank you, Collins, and the leadership of the airport, and to all the partners for investing the time and the energy to finalize an economic development proposal that benefits all constituencies that we serve. The West Plains PDA also adds to a list of recent innovative solutions the city and the county has worked together on delivering better service and improve the region's economic vitality. Adding the Spokane Airport to this partnership truly makes sense. And at this time, I invite you for any questions that you may have, or any other of the partners that would like to speak.
What does so a PDA, it allows you to infuse money, grant money, and that kind of thing into the area, correct? I mean, what does this area really need?
So a couple of key things, and the number one issue is infrastructure to build off of the biggest infrastructure that the city and county own together, the airport. But you also have water and wastewater infrastructure, road infrastructure, the partnership with the state on the state owned railroad. So it really helps coordinate in a major way the public infrastructure in this area. Secondly to that, it identifies a economic growth area like we have at the city, at the University District jointly with, again, in a great partnership with the county fundamentally and also the state. And then most recently, the Yard out in Northeast Spokane, as we build off another huge piece of infrastructure of the North-South Corridor. Another great partnership from the state of the major investment and allocation of state revenue to the North-South Corridor. And again, you see that in the University District with the major investments from the state educational system. How, as a region, do we build off of these three main pieces of infrastructure that the state has invested in, and then how does the city and county build off of those? And so you'll see in our strategic plan at the city that really those are the three key areas that we look at for growing. And then another piece, and thanks to the city council in approving in the budget and really advocating for that there are dollars in the budget, last year's budget and presumably next year's budget, for the administration of these PDAs. So in the areas of marketing and facilitating. And it also finishes, the third piece is just that laser focus in this area for particular sectors of, and this is really our partnership with Greater Spokane Incorporated as they recruit into certain sectors out here, although any businesses can come here, but the focus is definitely manufacturing and aerospace.
Is anybody coming?
They're all going to come.
You know, it's a very good point you bring up. We have found in the recruitment trips just of the last few months that are getting announced as we speak. Some of the key issues that were in front of us is major infrastructure needs, and that's really what spurred in really the leadership of the state on the rail. And so to have that rail come right into this property is critical. Typically, as I am brought in, usually at the very end of these recruiting projects, the time that they can be set up is critical. It's counted in days, maybe months, but definitely not years. And this type of negotiation, I mean, you heard it. The council president and I, from day one, we've been talking about this with the county commission. Tax revenue sharing is not something that happens in days, let alone months, maybe more like years. And so to have this as a bedrock, one with the tax revenue sharing piece, which is a big policy change, and then separately to have the major investments in infrastructure, which again, on our water and wastewater side, you'll see a chlorination station going in. I think maybe it's done now, it's going in, so that we can service water out in this area. So those sorts of upfront things that get into the government projects really help lay that foundation for the recruiting.
The Journal of Business just reported 2 businesses locating to the valley. They had actually looked at the airport, but imagine if we had the infrastructure in place and weren't saying, oh, well, we'll eventually have a rail line, and then we'll have roads, and we'll have sewer and water lines eventually, and please just pray with us that in 6 years we get those funded and put in. But when you have it set up and you're investing in that infrastructure, you have a priority for those companies and make it a lot easier for them to locate somewhere like the airport.
Well, thank you everyone for being here. You can see the excitement. Thank you to the board, to the county commission, to the state legislature, and I'm sure any of them are more than happy to take questions if you have them.